Hello, welcome to the second in a series of conversations with artists featured in the Museum of New Mexico's Alcoves 2020 exhibition. While the museum is closed to the public, we're trying to keep bringing our programming out of the museum and into your house. Today, I'm happy to be with Munson Hunt, one of the artists in Alcoves 2020 #3, and we're going to talk a little bit about her work and her practice. Hello, Munson.
Good morning.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. We're so happy that you're exhibiting in the alcove. And one of the things that I've noticed about this particular group of artists is that everybody's work is very different, but material and the materiality of their work, what it's made out of and how that material adds to the content or kind of the soul of the work is so prevalent in everybody's work, and particularly in the work that you do with wood.
Yes, the provenance of the material that I work with is what is most important. It is the foundation of where I begin. It's always in wood, and I always need to know where it came from.
Right, and is it because the kind of history that the wood could kind of encapsulate, or?
Yes, exactly, Mary. It's a rock from the moon, is what I like to say. If I'm using a 300-year-old piece of cottonwood from the Nambe Pueblo, my mind wanders back to what this material saw, what it lived through, what socially and environmentally the world was like. And it does take me into a place where I can kind of go from there.
That's great. And all of the wood that you use is reclaimed, so it's also environmental.
It is. I do not use green wood. I don't use wood that has been cut freshly. If I do, it's an unusual situation, which happens now and then. But for the most part, it is drought killed, fire claimed, wind blown. And, I actually can sometimes get the tree forest of the city to drop off some giant logs at my studio, which is an abandoned horse riding arena. And that's always nice.
That's great. What are you working on now?
Working on a few things at once. I always dabble in many things at once. So here in this home studio, I've got some works on plywood, working with a very simple image of drawing, and in the big studio, in the writing arena, which I'm sorry we can't record from, but it just doesn't get good reception.
Right.
But I'm dabbling on a few things, charring some wood for pieces that will hang on the wall. One is an old growth spruce that I'm working on in a very geometric form, which was a nice surprise. So there's always a lot going on. There's also fabrication still going on, as far as I know, in Juarez, Mexico, of a cast cottonwood bark, which is just under 9 feet tall and leans against the wall. And that bark is from one of those 300-year-old cottonwoods from the Nambe Pueblo. So it's a very special piece for me.
Oh, nice. Well, I've been watching the progress on the large spruce on Instagram, and I'm sad that we don't have access to photographs in this format. So I hope that people will check you out on Instagram. We'll look at our website for images of the work so they can get a sense of what we're talking about. The surface is so gorgeous, and the way you kind of communicate with and bring out, I don't know, I'm going to say emotion, but what you bring or call forth from your material is really wonderful.
Thank you, Mary. The surface is just as important as the form itself with my sculpture. I think that the surface is where the mystery and the seduction really comes in for me. And it's an up close view of what's going on in a piece. And I do get emotion from it. I find it something like a storm brewing or the bark on a tree. These things have a pull on me, and I do pay attention to them.
Great. I have noticed that the work, and we've talked about this before, is more, while it's sculptural and mass and scale and dimension are part of the experience, the kind of the sensibilities of painting and drawing are so much there in the surface, and the attention to line and surface on the completed works.
Yes, I went to art school, Parsons, in the 80s, really as an illustrator. And from illustration, it went to painting. From painting, the paintings came off the wall and stood up. And from there, a dialogue of object to viewer, particularly human scale, was focused on for, probably 25 years. I made pieces that were human scale, and that was my relationship that I had. And I realized if I went a little bit taller, it did something very different. And so scale is something that's very, very important, but it did start with illustration.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we are supposed to keep these short, so I want to thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I want to say I hope that people will get to the museum to see the exhibition once we open our doors back up. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Mary. You too. Be safe and be well.
You too. Bye-bye.